Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. In today's video, we are going to talk about one of the fundamental concepts of any TCG game, that being card advantage. Eric Taylor is often quoted as card advantage is any process by which a player obtains effectively more cards than his or her opponent. Because, of course, the ladies like the Magic too. Don't want to leave them out. Card advantage is a very basic concept, but it is one of those things that once you understand it and you start building your decks into it and making your play decisions around card advantage, it will elevate your level of play and help you get more wins under your belt, which is really what a budget player is all about, is taking those small advantages into big results. But before we get into all that, did you know that most YouTube viewers never end up subscribing to channels, even the ones they watch the most? So allow me to take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe to the Planewalker Stronghold for all of your new player experience, free-to-play, and budget needs. That way, you never miss out on a thing. First up, let's talk about Opt. Opt fundamentally is not a source of card advantage. At best, it's giving you card replacement. But one of the reasons that this spell is so powerful is because it does allow you card selection. It gives you some influence over what your next card draw will be. So if you need a particular card, you can endeavor to get that either knowingly or by putting the card you know you don't want on the bottom of your library and taking essentially a second shot at getting the card you need in order to take control of the game. Opt also tends to be very powerful because it is an instant, so you can play that at the end of your opponent's turn, giving them the least amount of opportunity to react to whatever you end up drawing. Now, on to actual card advantage examples. Another card that you get in your new player experience is Winged Words. This is a sorcery speed spell that allows you to draw 2 cards. So in essence, you are using 1 card to draw 2 cards. So that is the clearest, most simple idea of card advantage possible. You are seeing more cards out of your deck, and many Magic gurus will tell you that one of the fundamental concepts of any game like Magic is the person who sees the more cards in their deck is more likely to win. That is the encapsulated version of the concept of card advantage. Winged Words is also particularly important because being fundamentally blue, it loves flying creatures and gives you a discount on the casting for having flying creatures, even more advantageous to a budget player than we might expect. Of course, the opposite is true. Another form of card advantage is by removing cards from your opponent's hand. A card like Mind Rot uses your single card to disrupt and remove 2 cards from their hand. Again, a very basic example of card advantage, which for your opponent is classified as a negative card advantage. They lost more cards than you used to do it. Next up, I'd like to talk about 2 cards from our Bombardment deck. Forbidden Friendship and Nest Robber. Both of these are your classic turn 2 plays, but one of these gives you a form of card advantage and the other does not. Forbidden Friendship, being a sorcery as opposed to a straight summoning spell, will put 2 tokens into play, one of which has haste. So in the short term, Forbidden Friendship is a bit slower, as you will only be able to swing, all else being equal, for 1 point of damage, whereas Nest Robber gives you 2. The advantage here is that the Forbidden Friendship now requires 2 removal spells in order to get rid of both of those tokens, whereas Nest Robber is very often blocked by an 1x creature, some of which survive, others don't. So why is this important? The reason for that primarily being your turn 3 win conditions. Both Raid Bombardment, Bolt Hound, and Burn Bright are concerned with the number of creatures that you have in play. For instance, having cast Forbidden Friendship gives you 1 more point in raid bombardment and 2 more damage potentially with Bolt Hound or Burn Bright, assuming, of course, all else being equal. And of course, bombardment is all about going wide and overrunning your opponent. So being able to get 1 more threat on the board through something like Forbidden Friendship as opposed to Nest Robber is really what this deck is all about. You can punish decisions with things like Burn Bright and Bolt Hound and get even more damage in more quickly. Raid Bombardment, of course, throws more damage to the face and puts more triggers on the board. Another interesting form of card advantage are cards that you can fundamentally play more than once. For instance, the Adventure series from this year's budget collection really encapsulates that idea of card advantage, and it's one of the things that makes Adventures oh so powerful. For instance, Giant Killer from your New Player Experience collection as a rare allows you to play Chop Down and destroy a target creature with power 4 or greater, and then you still have the option of summoning for 1 white mana the 1/2 Giant Killer Human Peasant. That's an unusual creature type. So in essence, this is a card you get the option of playing twice. Inherent card advantage and 1 additional thing your opponent has to deal with. And while we are on the subject of removal, the spell portion of Giant Killer is what we refer to as spot removal. It targets a single creature. This inherently is not card advantageous, as you are using 1 card to deal with 1 card. Whereas if we look at another card from your New Player Experience, the Realm Cloak Giant, this is what we call a global removal. For the cost of 1 card, you eliminate all the creatures in play. That, of course, has more inherent card advantage in it based on the number of creatures that are in play. So you could very easily use a spell portion of something like Realm Cloak Giant in order to remove 7 or 8 creatures in a typical board state on turn 3 or 5, depending upon how much ramp your deck may be running. Overall, this sort of card advantage is very, very good and is the basis of most of your control decks. Now, one of the negative aspects of card advantage that you need to be on the lookout for is the Enchantment Aura. If you have or will ever play our Gingerbrute deck that we have talked about this season, you may very well understand just how impactful negative card advantage of an aura can be. For instance, if you play All That Glitters on your Gingerbrute, bringing it in very, very quickly up to a 5/5 threat, and then your opponent uses spot removal to take it out, you have lost both your Gingerbrute and your All That Glitters. So they have gained card advantage on you and taken that out of play. That's one of the reasons that when we talk about that deck, we talk about a protection suite so that you can keep your Voltron style creature in play and allow you to win games despite the potential threat of negative card advantage. And the last subsection of card advantage are cards that allow you to do multiple things. For instance, Sublime Epiphany. If this card read choose 1, it would not be an example of card advantage. Instead, it would just be a card that allows you a lot of playable options. But given the fact that it allows you to choose 1 or more, this makes it a card that can do multiple things for you. Now, whether those things are fairly costed with, in this case, a 6 converted mana cost, is a completely different subject. But the fact that this card can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things off of 1 card, including replace itself by allowing you to draw an additional card, makes it a supreme example of card advantage and worthy of consideration for most of your blue decks. This was a very strong inclusion in your New Player Experience collection. Now, with all that having been said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as the budget way to support this channel, because none of those activities cost you anything other than a moment of your time. So do it for Graham, do it for the YouTube algorithm, do it for the iced coffee. And until next time, I'll see you in the arena.